Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Steve Phillips later in the hour. Best bets later in the hour. Kevin Weeks coming up. You see the New York Post is doing really significant journalism right now. Like, they're getting to the bottom of stories that really matter by landing the scoop that Bill Belichick, when he left that house with no shirt on, he was leaving the house of his current girlfriend. So that has been established. Remember, we were wondering that?
Yeah.
Was that the house he was leaving? The New York Post has figured it out. They're on the case. And
Why
they
would
have
she
confirmed.
have a Ring camera that would do that? Or how does people have access to that?
Yeah, exactly.
That is a great question. Did she leak it out? Did one of her friends? Like, is there a chance she was like, you got to see this video, man. Bill was over last night, and look at how this guy left my place. You know, you send a text out, friend gets it, he or she posts it, boom, it's gone. It's out there. But, yeah,
Man,
Bill Belichick walking around with no shirt on. He was leaving his current
it looked
girlfriend's
cold
house.
there, too. Right? Look at how cold that looks.
Dark,
Why
dreary.
Does he have no shirt on?
I don't know. I mean,
That's where the wolf shirt.
That's
He
where
needed
the wolf shirt came to life. That's right. So, yeah, that's courtesy of the New York Post, you know, breaking ground on that story. So there you go. Yeah, Steve Phillips later in the hour. Jays Sox tonight. Jays losing last night. They've lost 2 in a row. No Martinez in the starting lineup. Gosman on the mound. We'll see what comes of it. Willie Mays passing away yesterday at the age of 93. What a life. What a nickname, right? We talked about Jerry West passing away. His nickname,
Yeah.
the logo. Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid. Love that. Great nickname. And Steve will join us later in the hour on that. And as for the NHL, you know, we've been talking a lot about McDavid and the Oilers, but in case you're just tuning in, there were trades today, like massive deals. Jacob Markstrom traded from Calgary to Jersey for a young defenseman. I just had his name in front of me. What is it?
Kevin Ball.
Kevin
Ball, who, you know, was a former second-round pick. I think he's 23. He's a big kid. Played every game for Jersey this year. And a 2025 first-round pick that is top 10 protected. So Markstrom waiving, and they're eating some money. So he's got this year and next at $4 million a year for Jersey. Like, what a setup if you're A, Jersey, but B, if you're Sheldon Keefe, like, you almost passed on that deal. And this is not the equivalent of, like, Kawhi Leonard being traded there, right? Like, remember Nick Nurse got the job, and then 2 weeks later they acquire Kawhi, and it's like, wow, what a gig.
Yeah.
It's kind of close, though.
But if Markstrom plays the way he's capable of playing, and you got Jake Allen, who's a really astute backup, all of a sudden you got a good tandem in net. You got a lot of talent down there and health. Like, Jersey could be a team to be reckoned with this year.
You get Dougie top 50 back,
Yeah.
right? You get a healthy, what Jack Hughes, not Quinn, sorry. And, that team looks pretty good. They got the framework. We've talked about it for a couple of years now. They just need saves. You've got Markstrom. Where that leaves me, guys, where I keep thinking, that's the domino. There's many teams that need goaltenders. He was probably the number one on the list, right? So Saros and Ullmark. I mean, Ullmark is probably next up, because if Saros is probably going to re-sign in Nashville, like, all I kept thinking, and I know we're Leaf biased on here. I kept thinking, well, what's Tree got up his sleeve?
You better figure that out, man, because, like, what Jersey just told you here, their experience was, it doesn't matter how much talent you have, how good you think you are. If your goaltending's a mess, you are done.
That's
it will
exactly
sink
right.
you. And they went out and they realized, we're doing that for 1 year, and that's enough. And I think they made a great trade. I mean, I think Jersey – and Markstrom had a no trade, no move, I believe. Like, clearly he was willing to go there. I have to believe other teams were willing to give them more for Markstrom, and he wouldn't go there. I have to believe that.
Yeah.
So Markstrom – he may have chosen Jersey, and as a result, Jersey had some leverage there, and I think they worked out a really good deal. But that's a lesson for the Leafs. Like, as of right now, you have Joseph Woll. That's what you have. Yeah. That's your goaltender, and he's a young guy with a lot of talent, but a lot of injury issues. That's it.
Wow.
So you better figure that out quick, man, before you even think about what you're doing on defense, up the middle. It's all irrelevant. You can re-sign Mitch Marner on July 1st. If you have Joseph Woll and Dennis Hildeby or something as your tandem, where are you going?
Well,
What are
he's
you
got
doing here?
39 games of NHL experience. That's what he has. So, I mean, that's not a lot. He's got to find a way. Like, obviously, you got to give him more, but they need somebody to play with him. Now, there's other guys, maybe more on the, backup, maybe tandem situation where Larry Brossoit is out there. His name has been bandied about. Anthony Stolarz, who is the backup for Florida. I chatted with him the other day. Mm-hmm. This guy's he's 6'6", and then you throw skates on him, and he's gotten better with age. Kind of like guys arrive a little bit later.
Yeah, but Noodles, New Jersey could have they could have went that route as well, saying, "Oh, we still like these young guys. We're just gonna add another guy with Jake Allen." Then they just said, "Screw it, we're getting a top guy." I like that route.
I agree.
I like that route where Joseph Wall can marinate for a couple years. Why not?
But that would have been a perfect case scenario. You get Jacob Markstrom and you allow him to mentor Joseph Wall. That being said, Jacob Markstrom controls where he wanted to go. Hence the no move clause. So I don't know if Brian, you just talked about it. Maybe there was only one team to mess with. Maybe.
Well, it's all irrelevant now if you're the Leafs because he's not available. Right, he's a New Jersey Devil. Here's Kevin Weeks of ESPN NHL Network, our TSN hockey analyst. Weeksy, great chat with you, buddy. What do you make of the Markstrom deal going to Jersey?
What up, boys? What up? I'm on Noodles Highway here, Highway 2, going from Edmonton to Calgs out in Berta, big skies. All right, I'm going to say this. I think it was long overdue. I think the Devils waited a really long time, and them waiting so long probably cost them this season, this current season. But I know from speaking to people in their organization, this is the guy that they really wanted was Markstrom. There was interest in other alternatives, be it Ullmark, be it UC Saros. But I think for them now, the fact that the Flames are retaining such a good I think up to 30% retention, now you get Markstrom at a discount. And I think the combined number between him and Jake Allen is something like six and change now as a result of the retention from Calgary. So I like the move. I think it's long overdue, but I like the move nonetheless. And I don't think that it's that expensive of a price that the Devils have to pay either.
Certainly isn't, Weeksy. What do you think Ullmark does? I mean, is he no movement, no anything, like he calls his own shot too? Do you think he just says, I'm staying in Boston?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has the ability. He's got that protection that you and Noodles were just talking about there as it pertains to Markstrom. Ullmark is a unique case because he loves Boston so much. He loves playing there. He's flourished there. He's one of Vezina. He's one of Jennings. Obviously, at this point, I think, Jeremy Swayman is their main man going forward. Although Ullmark still is the number one goalie, I believe, but it just might not be in Boston. I know for a fact that there was a chance he could have gone to L.A. and there was a deal to be had there. The Kings thought they had him, and because of his no-move protection, Ullmark, he felt like it was a little too far for his family. He's from Sweden. That's all the way on the other coast, plus the Pacific Coast time change, too. So I'm curious to see. The Devils would have been a good fit, but not limited to. I heard you guys talking about the Leafs. They'd be a nice fit for him, but I don't necessarily know that he does or doesn't want to play in Toronto. So that remains to be seen. But he's now, to me, the number one goalie on the trade market.
Yeah, so Weeksy, before we get to, McDavid and the Panthers series and that, I just wanted to finish up on this goalie market situation. You just talked about Joseph Wall in Toronto is a good young goaltender. He's got 39 games experience. So, if Markstrom not available and if Ullmark decides not to waive to go or if Tree can't get something done, who do you covet or who do you start to look at? Is it more tandem guys then and instead of a number one to mentor him?
Yeah, it could be tandem guys. It's an option for them for sure. I heard you talking about Stolarz. He'd be one of a few guys that you could be looking into. A guy that I really like, and I'm a big fan of, is another Albertan in my man Logan Thompson.
Yeah,
I like LT a lot. He's got a lot of skill. He's got a lot of flash to his game, but there's substance. He's been an all-star. He's played in the playoffs. He's hungry. He knows that Aiden Hill, there at least in in Vegas, it seemed like Aiden Hill is the preferred goalie at this point, but he'd be a nice guy to pluck. If you're asking me, I think he'd be a nice fit in Toronto. He's still young and hungry. He's had to work for everything he's gotten in the game. He hasn't had an easy path, as you guys know. I think he'd be he's a guy that I would covet as a young guy that still has a lot of upside. But if you're looking for a little bit more, it all depends on what the Leafs want to do. Like, are you looking for insurance, like you guys were talking about, as like a veteran complimentary guy? Are you looking for a young complimentary guy? Or are you looking to go for, let's say, UC Saros, for example, from Nashville, ? But Saros could be a really good option if you're looking to swing for the fences.
Absolutely, with Kevin Weeks. So the Markstrom deal, not the only one that went down today. Pierre-Luc Dubois traded from L.A. to Washington for Darcy Kemper, 1-for-1, no money retained. So L.A., in this deal with the money, saves a few million a year, and they get out from under a 7-year deal for PLD, where they only have 3 left on Kemper, and they need goaltending help, so they're hoping Kemper can get back to where he was a couple of years ago. But it frees them up possibly to go big game hunting at some point. Like, do you see this as LA laying the framework for more deals in the future? Like, what is your reaction to a trade like this?
Well, we're on the league charter flying from Calgary. Sorry, I'm saying Calgary because I'm heading there, but from South Florida, from Lauderdale to Kansas City for gas, and then Kansas City out here to Edmonton. So our Wi-Fi at best was more Tri-Fi, because we were trying to find it. It wasn't really working. That was choppy. So all that to say, as some of these deals were coming down and we were seeing them, we were, everybody's hot stoving on the plane. We're all talking, what do you think? First of all, I can't believe LA got out from that deal. That's the first thing.
Oh, my God, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Blakey, I don't know where he is right now. I don't know if he's got invisible ink on him or if he's with the Navy SEALs or who he's with. But however Blakey was able to do that, I think that's masterful. That's the first thing. Darcy Kemper, somebody that they know, they're going to try to rehabilitate him and see if they can reboot him, like you said, to his performance of a few years ago. Certainly, I thought he was excellent in Arizona, and he played well in Washington, well enough to help them win that cup. But Charlie Lindgren outplayed him this year. Charlie Lindgren had a big season this year. He was great in Washington. So I think that does set the framework. But I asked some of the people in L.A., okay, does this mean you're going to go get another goalie? The answer I got was no. This allows us to have Darcy Kemper. We've re-signed Big Save Dave Riddick. And this allows them to have Eric Portillo, the young Swedish guy that played at University of Michigan. This gives them a couple more years to develop him, as I was told on the plane just now. So, yeah, now that they've opened up that money, why not go big game hunting? Why not go Mitch Marner hunting?
Ooh.
Not limited to.
Marner
limited
hunting.
to.
Okay.
But why not?
Well,
why not look at it at this point, right?
Well, everyone up here is trying to figure out what the Leafs are going to do with Marner. Do the Leafs want to keep him? Are they going to trade him? Does Marner want to stay? Would Marner want to go? If he goes, would he sign long-term? Like, what's your read on the situation?
I'm going to get a little bit more because once I jump off with you guys here, I'm going to call somebody that's pretty close to the situation and get the lay of the land, get the update.
Okay.
Lay of the land on Marner. And what I would say, though, is, hey, right now the Toronto Maple Leafs are speaking to people there. They're in on everything. They're listening in on everything, as they should every year. But specifically, I think this offseason, Marner and beyond Marner, they should examine everything. To me, guys, listen, you guys are kind enough to have me on the show with you guys a lot over the years. And at the end of the day, it's about the Leafs going on a run, man. This is, it's my 15th year in TV. I've worked every Stanley Cup final, including this year, Noodles I just saw in Edmonton. We haven't seen the Leafs at one of these.
Nope.
And say what you want, right? Say what you want. People try to, they try to salt the Panthers. All I know is this is their third cup final in their franchise history. That's impressive. We know LA's been to 3. We know Anaheim's been to 2. Tampa's been to 3 or 4. Carolina's been to 2. Like, at the end of the day, Vegas came in, they went to 1. Like, that's pretty impressive when you start looking around. And it's really about them getting to the next level. So I agree with them that they're in on everything in terms of listening and exploring everything. And if there's some big game hunting for them, for the Leafs, I don't know, why not make some big, bold deals? There's nothing to save it for. We know that.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir up here. I mean, it's just, I guess
right?
It's on them to decide to do that, Weeksy. And also Marner's got a no move, no trade. He holds a lot of that control as well in terms of what he wants to do.
Yeah, and he's earned that. He's been an excellent player. We know that, but I just look at some of these teams, right? Like I look at the deals that the Panthers made. There might have only been one that didn't hit, but all their deals, Radko Gudas, Gustav Forsling on waivers, Brandon Montour, Anthony Stolars. Like I can go down the list. My man Sam Bennett, my other guy Matthew Tkachuk. Like all those guys. Evan Rodriguez. You want to talk about value? Toronto kid from Etobicoke. Mm-hmm. Like they've made a lot of nice moves, and I think for the Leafs right now, they had a couple, but they got to be open for business, which I understand they are. And as mentioned, boys, it's all about going deep in the playoffs. We all know that. That's the key. So I'm curious to see what they end up doing this offseason.
Well, the one philosophy we see with Florida is they just realized we haven't done anything, so why not change up the mix? Why be happy with the mix if they haven't done anything? Does not make sense.
I agree. Hey, and listen, to your point, last year they got to the Cup final. They still made moves this year.
Exactly.
Point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like last year, it'd be easy to be like, boys, we're good. Slather on the SPF, poolside. Let's go to the one rooftop in Miami. We're good. No. They went. They got Sandy in the off season. They made some of those moves, some of those ones we mentioned, and they paid off big time for their team and for Paul Maurice and company, man. So look, you don't want to be wild, but you got to be bold, right? Like, we all played for a lot of different general managers, and if you think of some of the veteran general managers that we've played for and coaches, like one thing you could say is they didn't sit on their hands. Like I played for Glenn Saylor, Lou Lamoriello, Jimmy Rutherford. Like those guys didn't sit on their hands. They weren't afraid to make some of those big moves. Look at Pittsburgh. I remember texting Jimmy when they traded for Phil Kessel. And probably like 99.8% of the world probably was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And Jimmy even said, he's like, my own team, internally, my own management team didn't like it. I'm like, Jimmy, that's a great deal. I like that deal for you guys. Sure as you know what, the HBK line, they win 2 cups, and the HBK line with him, Hagelin, and Bonino has a combined 65 points that one playoff in the first ring for the first ring. So you got to make some bold moves, man. You can't just nibble along the edges. You got to make some bold moves. That's how you get there.
Yeah. Weeksy, what about closer to home right now, what you're talking about? 97's performance. You're in the building last night. What do you make of it?
EJ and I on the NHL, EJ Radic and I on the NHL International call. I was like, you got to check that man's ID. I don't know if that's Pablo Picasso or if that's Connor McDavid. Because that's like, honestly, it's so, what he does, like seriously, think of what he does. How long have we been around the game? Okay, as kids we're watching, we're aspiring to get there. Okay, then we get into pro, we're playing, we play a long time. Now in media, we've covered it a long time. I've never seen anybody do, I just spoke to Glenn Gullison, your guy Gully. I just talked to him here before we started the drive. He's in another vehicle. But I just said, like, Mick Jesus, 97, this guy's he's like, oh, you don't even know. He's so, it's unbelievable. It's just, and watching him and calling the games up close, 2 back-to-back 4-point Kit Kat performances back-to-back in the Stanley Cup final. Never seen happen. He's now set the record for most assists in a Stanley Cup playoff year. He's up there among, the greatest for points in a Stanley Cup playoff year. It's just incredible what this guy's done. It's wild. And how much he separated himself to this Stanley Cup playoffs and specifically this final from the pack. And we know how great Draisaitl, we know how great Austin Matthews, but I mean, Draisaitl, all these guys, Nate McKinnon, Cooch, those guys are incredible. And somehow Connor McDavid turned the dial up a little bit more. It's historic. What he's doing is historic. And the league's 6 years old.
Do you think you're flying back to Florida in a couple days?
I do.
Ooh.
I do. If the Oil come out, if they play the way they played in Game 4 here in Edmonton, with this bar, Noodles, you were here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You saw it firsthand.
I
right?
mean,
I thought they were about a tick off of that last night. But Noodles, if they play the way they played here in Game 4, you could take it from there.
I mean, so okay, they've got 9 goals in the last 2 games on Bobrovsky. If you're Florida, what's the adjustment then, Weeksy? Because we've seen Edmonton adjust. The one thing I've noticed the last 2 games, Edmonton has been chipping pucks out of their zone to the neutral zone. They're taking away a lot of Florida's forecheck. So what's the adjustment to get back to what they had success in the first couple games?
They got to do exactly what I said that the Oil did last game here, Game 4. The Oil, everybody went to Tim Hortons. Everybody had about 16 coffees before the game because those guys came out flying. I don't know if they were double-double, black, white, black and whatever they had, cream, whatever those guys had, they were flying. And if I'm Florida, they got enough guys on that team that play junior and that know the landscape. Put it in order at Timmy's. Get some double espresso or whatever they got to get. Florida's got to come out flying. That's the first thing for me. Number 2, I think Florida's got to also realize the fact that they might not be able to hard rim everything in a lot of to get in on their forecheck as much. They might have to chip some pucks in on the forecheck. Chip and chase, because they have the guys that'll hunt them down, but they might not be able to hard rim as much as they were able to in games 1 or 2. Those are some of the adjustments for me. And then the other big one, obviously, stay out of the box, man, because they now, this historically good Oiler power play, now, right, best in history the last couple of years, and the penalty kills money too. Why feed them? They fed the power play was almost dead. It was almost a power kill. And because the Panthers have been taking the penalties, they basically fed the power play 2 for 5 again yesterday. So stay out of the box as well for the Panthers. So chip and chase a little bit more, stay out of the box, and make sure they come out breathing fire right from the opening puck drop.
Safe travels, Weeksy. Getting up to Calgary, back to Edmonton, back down to Florida. It should be a wild ride, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me on, boys. Keep up the great work.
You got it, Kevin Weeks. All right, TSN hockey analyst. And, yeah, he thinks they're going back to Florida. We'll see.
I mean, Florida can have a response. Lost in all of this, I do want to give flowers to friend of the show. This Connor Brown is all of a sudden
unreal
a story, which is good for him.
Flying out there.
Yeah.
Flying out there.
So good. That goal he scored last night, I mean, you talk about a tone setter and getting that place to quiet down quickly, man.
But what an anticipation play. Like, Frankie was sitting beside me, and Frankie said, he goes, Connor Brown used to drive me nuts in practice because he had this unbelievable stick where he was always picking pucks off and lifting your stick and just hounding you as a defenseman. And there was 3 or 4 plays last night where you're like, man, he's on top of it. You know, he's lifting sticks on Montour, in on the forecheck, poking pucks away.
Well, that was the best part of that goal, Jamie. It wasn't necessarily the move. It was the little chip to himself where it was he could get it far enough away from Barkov and he could still possess it himself. To have that patience and those smarts in the hands and everything, that little play made the whole goal. The move was special, but when you got Barkov with that long reach breathing down your neck, everything about that was elite and special, and that made the goal. That little just kind of chip it away, he can't touch it, and I got it. That was what made that goal.
Yeah, and, we ask this question all the time, as we move forward in a season, like, can this guy redeem himself? We're doing that with Bo Bichette right now in the city.
Right.
And, 40, 50 games into the year in Edmonton, they're like, get this guy out of here. Like, who signed Connor Brown, and what were you thinking? And now you're realizing what they were thinking. What Holland and Jackson were thinking, why they gave him the deal he got. When we got to Washington, he got hurt immediately. It was a completely washed out season. When he went to Ottawa, they didn't make the playoffs. He was trying to find a rhythm, and they weren't a great team.
Yeah.
And he had his challenges. He didn't score all year. I mean, Connor's got to own that, and Brownie would do that. But in the playoffs, the guy's been unreal. Like, they've made lineup changes, and at no point was it contemplated the idea that he would come out. Nor would you expect he should, the way he's played.
Right.
But
that third line has found a little something there with that Jan Mark. And And,
he's moving too, man. Ullmark almost closed it at the end of the game last night.
Hit the post. I kept thinking that post is going to come back to bite them, right?
Crazy,
he had a chance in the first shift, I think, where he just put it right into the slot. Yeah, and he was like, you heard him after. He was pissed, but he's been great, that guy. Yeah,
well, and Henrique has looked like him coming off the injuries really stabilized that third line. Although Henrique was third goal, Ekman-Larsson goal. Like Henrique's got that on a few times. Edmonton got themselves in trouble. They would take it to their backhand and try and move it up the wall, and Florida pinched that wall off. And that's this Oliver Ekman-Larsson goal. That was Henrique that turned that over along the wall, and then doesn't take that pass away. And I kept thinking to myself, there's a ton of time. If Florida got that tying goal, they were going to win that in overtime last night. Like I kept thinking.
It felt that way.
But I kept thinking to myself, 97's not going to let it happen. Like there was something. I feel like he needed something else, and he did. The empty netter, obviously, that was the dagger. But it just. There is some little details that need to be cleaned up. Mistakes now it's Florida's turn that's been making
we'll see.
Mistakes,
we got a couple of days here until we find out how they apply them. Best bets coming up. Steve Phillips coming up on the Jays, and Willie Mays, and also Rich Paul, Bronny James' agent, with an interesting comment on how the Raptors could feel about his client. We'll tell you about that. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. The Travelers tomorrow. We should mix in a 3-pack, right? It's an elevated event, right? Got to sneak that in. Okay, so we'll get to some golf picks later in the hour. Best Bets. Jays Sox tonight. Here's Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. No Orelvis Martinez tonight. People not happy up here, Steve. What do you make of the Jays' decision to call the kid up and not play him?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I saw John Schneider's comments about it too, where he said, he'll play some second base, maybe some third base, and maybe he'll get in against left-handed pitching. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, play him. I mean, you might as well. Look, I'm not a big fan of rookies being called up to try to save your season. But the reality is, desperate people do desperate things. And they're desperate for offense. Why do you not put the kid in there? Because here's for young players who have been used to playing every day, putting them on a bench and then having to come off one day and play and then play again the next day, you might as well put him in and give him a chance to see what he can do. And I will tell you that the one thing Bobby Valentine did, whenever any player got called up, that player started that day. He was in the starting lineup that day. You don't let him sit for a day and just let it grow and that anticipation get bigger. You put him in and let him feel the joy and excitement of that first game. So I'm a little surprised by it myself.
Is that Schneider saying, I got to win ball games for my own job and I'm just not putting him in? Because it seems ridiculous for him not to play.
Yeah, it's so hard to know right now that, we've criticized him for being too controlled by analytics. I can't imagine that we can now criticize him for taking control and not putting somebody in. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think that it certainly doesn't. It sounds to me like they have some thoughts that Martinez can handle certain types of matchups, but not others. And so they're going to try to mix and match with him. But you got young guys who may give you a spark. See if the spark is there, because you desperately need it, and you need more than one of them to get you going. If Bichette's out and Vladdy's, still not hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Steve, you just mentioned Bichette. Is there anything, or is it possible for him to kind of redeem himself and make this some type of season, or is it gone?
Oh, no, he can. He can redeem himself, yeah. You go back, I think, 2 years, I want to say 2022, his numbers weren't great through July, but then August and September, he was the hottest hitter in baseball. And at the end of the year, it looked like great numbers on the back of the baseball card. But, that sort of inconsistency, by the time he got hot, it was almost too late. So, he can light it up when he comes back, and we'll forget about the struggles in the first half of the season, especially if the team catches fire while he's hot as well.
Steve, you just mentioned he can light it up. We've seen that last year where it was August and September, he got going and the numbers were fantastic. My question is, moving forward, have we seen the best of him, and what would his contract, or what is the ceiling on this player as far as what the Blue Jays have? Because honestly, like, we see it every year, and we keep saying him and Vladdy are core pieces to build around. Do you still believe they're guys that you have to build around, or maybe at some point is the jury out on them?
Yeah, so I think for Bichette, I mean, he's been a guy that's led the league in hits before, so he's his on base percentage, he hits it instead of walks it. Like Vladdy will take walks, and his on base will be 80 points higher than his batting average, and he'll accumulate some of his numbers that way. For Bichette, it's about swinging the bat. Sometimes you need some good fortune, good luck. Sometimes bad luck can get you. He's not had a good year with his contact rate, his barrel rate, his exit velocities aren't the same as we've seen. And yet, I think he still can be a winning piece. Now, ideal in the long run, I'd rather move him off as shortstop to second and or third. I think it'll help his offense as well. And I think he's still young enough to where the consistency can come. Like, his numbers at the end of the year are still pretty good. It's about consistency right now. And, we never thought he was necessarily going to be a 30-homer guy. To do it, I just don't think he takes that approach at the plate. But I think that, honestly, I look at him as being more predictable generally than Vladdy is. Vladdy is, maybe it's because I had bigger expectations for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with the power, and I think he taught us that, to believe that it was in there, that we never really had that expectation for Bichette. So, when he hits 20 to 25 home runs, Bo Bichette, we're okay with that. It's what's his batting average? What's his, how many hits does he get? That sort of thing. So, I think he saw the big payday that all of the free agent shortstops got between Turner and Correa and, Corey Seager and, even Simeon, got the second base contract, but it was a big one. And he looked at it thinking, man, I've got this contract coming my way. And I think that when he got off to struggle, he's probably over-tried a little bit because he's starting to do calculations in his head about what his payday can be. So I honestly feel more comfortable with Bichette than I do Guerrero. But I still think that there's not, like Guerrero, what the player wants, what the team should pay, there's too big a gap right now. And I think the players are going to have to realize they're not going to get what they thought.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. So the great Willie Mays passed away yesterday. What a life, 93 years old. He spent the last year and a half of his playing career with the Mets, and then was coaching with the Mets and was around the Mets and connected them for a long time. And obviously you have a great history with the Mets. I'm sure you've come across Willie Mays in the past, but many have argued over the years, greatest ball player ever. How do you put his career and his life into perspective?
Yeah, honestly, it's really amazing. You know what? It's just because I was on MLB Network today, and I don't know that people realize that he was just the 10th black player in Major League Baseball. I think we have this vision that, the game was integrated, and he played his 24 years in that way, but he went through much of the same things that Jackie Robinson did. As just, the 10th black player. So he wasn't first, but he wasn't that far behind. In 1954, Willie Mays won the MVP. In 1953, he didn't play at all. He was drafted into the Army and went to Korea. He sat out an entire year. So he played his rookie year. He started out 1 for 26, and still won the Rookie of the Year. His second year, he got drafted early in the season, barely played, sat out the entire 1953 season, and comes back and hits .348 and wins the MVP award. Like, it's just unbelievable what he did. He was, he's the first 5-tool player. Like, he's the prototype of a 5-tool player that we talk about. And he hits for average, hits for power. He can run, he can throw, and he can defend. Arguably the best defensive center fielder ever, even better than Andrew Jones, better than Joe DiMaggio. And the thing about him is that other stars, how players can be sometimes where they don't want to compliment somebody else because it makes it feel like it diminishes them. everybody raved about Willie Mays and the player that he was and the person that he was. And, it's interesting that what a great teammate. And, he was a baseball rat where, he, after his career was over, he lived 51 years after he was done playing. And I think he still went to the ballpark almost every home game that the Giants played, watched every game on the road. He would go there to talk to the Giants players and manager and coaches. He'd always go over to the visiting side. He would always be in the clubhouse visiting, saying hello. And for me, he actually sought me out when I was general manager. And so I said, yeah, hi. And he goes, listen, he said, when I got traded to the Mets, the ownership there told me that they would retire my number. And he said, Ricky Henderson's wearing my number 24. I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, oh, uh-oh. And I said, well, let me do some digging. I'll ask questions, see what I can find out. And I did. And I sought him out the next day. And I said, Willie, I've talked to everybody, and there's nobody here that was there in 1972 and 73 when you were playing. I said, I don't, and I believe you. I just don't know it. So I went back to the ownership. I said, well, he really does believe that that's what he was told. And I said, and it probably should be something we consider. Well, we never did. It was out of my hands. It was an ownership level. But finally, in 2022, after they had an old-timers game, the first one the Mets have done, they retired his number. And I'm glad they did it while he was still alive, and he got the enjoyment out of that. But, yeah, he didn't like Ricky wearing his number 24. Now, Ricky wore it in honor of Willie Mays, but he just soon nobody wore 24 back then. So, but, he was a guy that really supported other players. It didn't matter if you were a star or you were the least player on the roster. He was there to help. And how about he would move the infielders into position from center field. So he would tell the shortstop, shade over that way. Second base, move over this way. And then there were times he would call pitches from center field. He was so involved in everything. And so just, 660 home runs, a 300 batting average, 300 plus stolen bases, and just an iconic star. I remember playing at Candlestick, which was a horrible hitting ballpark with the wind and the cold and the dimensions, and yet he still hit 660 home runs.
Pretty incredible. Yeah, just an incredible life, incredible career. Great stuff, Steve. Appreciate you doing this, man. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. Word coming in that Garrett Cole's been activated off the IL.
Jerry Cole.
Start tonight.
Yeah, he's starting tonight for the Orioles, too. So, I mean, they've not just weathered the storm. They're the best team in the American League. And now they get him back. And if his arm is intact and he's flying, like, what a trade deadline acquisition without actually giving up assets. You just get your stud back. That's dangerous for the rest of the AL. Yeah, so there you go. Garrett Cole returning tonight. Jays in action down at the Rogers Center. We'll come back with our best bets. Take a look at the Travelers as well. Maybe a 3-pack, maybe a 5-pack. Who knows? It's an elevated event.
I got it right in front of me.
We'll get interested. All right. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Jays money line tonight. You got to pay some minus 142. I don't think they get swept. Boston, they're not that great of a team. You're at home. Gausman on the mound. Gausman, I think, is going to bring his A stuff tonight. Jays money line. And then I'm on Sammy Burns this week. All right, a top 20 finish at the TPC Hartford, paying plus 100. You're getting even money there. And I'm going long shot. Plus 3,000, Sammy Burns outright. Sammy played really well in Hamilton. I think he played pretty well at the Open. I like where Sammy Burns is at. He's too good of a player. He's going to get back in the hunt. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. All right. You want to do a little 5-pack here for the Travelers?
Yeah.
Great course. Great course. Great field. Going to be a fun weekend. Who's got first pick? I guess I won. I had DeChambeau last week at the Open. That was a great pick by me. Great pick.
So does that mean I get to go first now?
Yeah, you can go first. Go ahead.
I'm going to shock the world, and I'm going to pick Justin Thomas with my first. Dude, don't even come at me.
You sent me a text 4 days ago about that cat and the way he plays golf.
What did it say?
It just said he's an absolute disaster right now on the golf course. But okay, you got JT.
Those types of comments that are privy to you and me only did not need to resurface in this forum.
Apologies.
I'm taking JT because I think he's just at a point where it's desperation and he's got to get it going. Plays well there.
Yeah.
Plays well.
I mean, this is tough because Scheffler's paying plus 360 right now on FanDuel.
Dude, hang on. Before you pick him, it's crazy to think that this is an elevated event with probably 4.5 for the winner, and no one they don't even care about it. They're like, get this over with. Maybe I can shove $4 million in my pants.
And I'm going to take him because he's so good right now. He just won at the Memorial. He hated his game at the Open. He didn't play Pinehurst well. I think he's exhausted. I think he just wants to get out of here, do what Rory did, and then show up again at the Open. But I'll take Scheffler. If he's on the board, how do you go against him right now, the way he's playing?
I'm going to take a 2-pack with Oberg and Schauffele.
Okay.
Oberg and Schauffele.
Yeah, I like Oberg a lot here. I will take Sammy Burns, and I will take Patrick Cantlay. Played well last week.
Yeah,
he hasn't had a great season, but you catch a guy that's hot. He's capable of winning tournaments. He's a really good player. I'll take Cantlay and Sammy Burns. All right, how about a couple more here? Who else do we like?
I'm going with the repeat winner, Keegan Bradley, on my squad. Whether Scotty Vail likes that or not, he can chew on it. I'm taking Keegan Bradley.
Okay, you're on Keegan. I will take Colin Morikawa, another guy who's been knocking on the door. Finished strong at the Open on the weekend. He's been in the hunt multiple times this year. He's a closer. I'll take Morikawa. One more pick each. Who do you want?
I'm going to go with a little wild card. My little buddy. He almost got it done last year. Little Denny McCarthy.
Ooh, Denny. He can roll the rock at that place. He gets that putter cooking. You're right. I'll go a little bit of a long shot as well. I'll go Akshay Bhatia. Akshay.
I like that pick.
Yeah, I like Akshay,
I like that pick.
He's a good little player. All right, there you go. That's it. And, throw in Bill Zalatoris. I'll take Billy Zaltz.
I'll take Jordan Spieth. I'll top you with Spieth.
Okay. Spieth doesn't feel like he's close either, man.
Man, it's
weird, but he doesn't feel like it.
And he'll come off the golf course and be like, I can't drive it better than I did today. But nobody cares about that.
No, it's weird, man. Because he had that long run after he won at the Travelers, that famous bunker shot in the playoff.
Yes.
Then he went 4 years without winning. Then he won a couple tournaments, and now it's been 2 years again. And I don't really recall him being in the hunt much.
No.
Spieth. But all right, there you go. Those are our picks for the Travelers. I like it. Cool. It's a great course. It's a really cool place.
Yeah, the final 4 holes are a lot of excitement, a lot of action, tough to get through. It's always a great finish to watch on the back 9.
Yeah. So you get through this one, and then you pack up shop until the Open, basically, which is still a few weeks away. So there you go. All right, we got the Jays in action tonight. A lot of action. Do you think by the time we're on the air tomorrow, more transactions in the NHL? You think there'll be another trade?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so. The GMs have said, screw the finals, screw Jerry. We got to do business or we're going to miss out on what we want.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's what's happened here the last day.
So.
People have said, I got to make a move here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think, coming out of the combine, heading into the draft next week, I think there is going to be at least one more transaction tomorrow.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, we always hear, Brad Treliving, he's in on everything. Well, let's see, right? But at least he's going to be the one that makes the move. I don't know. It's interesting, these teams that are pouncing. Like Calgary's going the other way.
Yeah.
Calgary, I feel like, is going to be in a bad place. But we'll see. You like that Wolf kid. They got Wolf. They got Darth Ladar.
The thing is you got Kadri, you got Coleman, you got I don't know, unless they sell those guys, all of those guys
for 7 more years.
Unless they sell all those guys off, they're not going to be San Jose. They're not going to be Chicago.
No, but they're not going to make the playoffs either.
Right.
It just feels like a middle ground. Like they're in a fork of the road. They got to figure out what are you doing. Like you're tearing it down. You're awful for 2 or 3 years or not.
Yeah.
That's on Craig Conroy to figure out. All right, boys. Good stuff. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out today. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.